All Nigel Farage has ever wanted has to be in that house. Now he's in that house, he wants to hold on to it for as long as possible. He doesn't care about the country, he doesn't care about the culture, he cares about immigration, but what he cares about most is Nigel Farage.
The king should intervene at some point.
No, and other people keep tweeting me that where's the king on this? Where's the king? The king's whole position is to not be political. If the king comes out political, then it destroys the whole system.
Yeah, but you got his name on your beret when you go out into battle.
Sure.
You know, you're fighting for king and country. You're not fighting for Kemi and country.
Gove and Dougie Smith essentially ousted Boris Johnson and then Liz Truss to get Rishi Sunak in. Rishi Sunak's had his day, so they want to make sure they get their next person in so they can continue in the positions that they are in, which is puppet masters, which is all they care about. So who knows where we'll be as a result of their little games.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Fox and Father with me, the Fox, and him,
The father.
Father, Calvin John.
Why is that so difficult? Oh my goodness.
I don't know what I want to say. Anyway, we're reunited.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. Real whiskey, no cigars.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's the afternoon. We've been waiting anyway. Before we kick off, love you and welcome back.
Thank you.
Here is your Unite the Kingdom
Oh,
badge.
amazing. Cheers.
I
Let's unite the kingdom.
I thought it up at that. Well, did you think it up or did I think it up?
You can take the credit.
Oh, no, someone thought it up. Anyway, we thought it up and we thought it'd be a good way of saying it's a sort of the British being a modest people. It's a good way of
So
gently saying.
So I said, let's unite the kingdom. You said, let's have a heart that embraces the flag, and that will unite the kingdom.
Yeah. So find us on Culture Stores. Follow us on culture_stores on Twitter, and we've got merch. Calvin sells pipes and various things like that, and I don't know how to put on brooches. I'll do it.
You're going to ruin your nice shirt.
It is my nice shirt, isn't it? Is it going to damage it?
Yeah, you've already got. I can see the hole from here.
Oh, shut up, mate. All right, just imagine it's on. All right, I'll put it on my jacket after we leave. It's just a bit warm down here. Okay, so you're back from America.
Yes.
And you're in London. And we went out last night. And it's your fault.
What? That you were dressed too scruffy to get in anywhere nice?
Why are you doing this to me already?
What?
You've been back.
What's my fault?
I went to pastoral and like caring.
They're like, no, you can't come. You've got trainers. They're like, oh, not just trainers. You're wearing denim too.
Yeah, so we tried to get in somewhere to have a cigar last night and too many whiskies, which I blame you for.
I did have too many whiskies
already, but now we got more whiskies.
Yeah.
Who knows where it'll go? Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
And how does it feel to be back in the London Starn?
It is London Stone, isn't it? I'm not convinced that I'm in England. It's very strange. I get off the airplane. In the airport, I won't do an impression, but the kind lady was pointing.
I'll do the impression. I'm happy to do the impression. Hello, how are you, sir?
No, they weren't African. They're Asian.
Asian. How do you do Asian?
British passports this way.
British passport this way.
But the point being,
hello, sir. I think we should be allowed to do impressions.
We're allowed. The first voice you hear is not English, telling you this way for British passports, this way for everyone else, or whatever. And then I get in a cab, again, another non-British accent. I get to London, I don't see a single English person anywhere. I'm like, have I arrived in the wrong place?
I get the wrong flight.
Yeah.
You did.
It's crazy.
Mate, I tell you as well, because now that I've moved, I mean, my neighbours near me are ethnically in Asian, Indian, whatever.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are.
You're in the sticks.
Yeah, but it's not a sort of. I'm not sort of reaching for bits of my own culture. It's like, oh, then they say good morning, and it's like it's normal. But there is something so weird about London now.
Yeah.
It's. I was saying to someone this morning that I had a girlfriend 20 years ago who, and I lived in East London with her, and I went back to East London actually to see Blessings lot, and I was just blown away by how shockingly different the whole thing is after just in 20 short years.
Yeah, I just put a tweet out, one of those old videos that have been colorized from back in the day, probably the 50s or the early 60s. That we can see what London used to be like when it was civilized. It was nice, and it's not even about race. You can see colour people in the video. Yeah. It's just that the whole.
Did you just say colour people?
Yeah, is that, I'm not allowed to say that.
Mate, can someone get me Kendi Andrews on the phone? The coconut's kicking off.
Anyway,
It's lovely to have you back. It's so
good to be
nice
back.
to have my
Well,
friend
it's
back.
not nice to be back. It's good to be with you. It's not good to be back here.
It is lovely to have you back, and it is lovely to be with you too. So we got a lot to talk about. I suppose we've got to kick off with. Let's kick off with the things that you've really noticed in your first period in America. The things that you go, like, this is definitely true of America, which isn't true of Britain, and things both positive and negative.
Firstly, it's such a baby of a country. Like every time they take me somewhere, they think, bless them, they think they're taking me somewhere nice and prestigious and historical. Like, look at this old building from like 1910. I'm like, are you serious? Like, okay, cool. Everything is brand spanking new, but with that comes the attitude that everything can be built because they don't have anything. Like over here, we're so established, everything already exists, and if it doesn't exist, we don't do anything about it. Whereas the Americans are so upstarty and entrepreneurial that they'll just build it. They get on with it. It's great. Like from the smallest thing, like if I don't have something in the church, rather than like, oh, how do I have to get faculty to get this? It's like, no, someone in the congregation will say, I can build that. I'm a carpenter, or I can do that joint, whatever. Whereas over here, we struggle.
They're very lateral. We're very
back.
vertical.
Yes.
And there's great passages in a book I'll find, and I'll see if I can put it in the link. But the idea that Americans live on a footprint, and the left in America are very jealous of us for having like mass transportation and living in tiny little rabbit hutches, and they think, oh, isn't it great? You know, you can be miserable like I am.
Yeah, it's not good.
But
then there's lots of little things that I like as well, like when you get stuck in traffic and the truck in front of you has just got a quote from Isaiah on it or something, like that doesn't stand out to them. That's normal. That's ordinary for the plumber or whatever to have a Bible quote. For me, that's really outstanding. How that's bold. How dare they? You know,
a country that does it is not ashamed to be itself.
No,
and it's a wonderful thing. It's I reminded of that of when I was speaking to Zahir Ahmed, the Muslim guy, over lunch, and he said to me, you know, it's all very well saying you want to protect your culture, but you guys have no idea what your culture is anymore.
Because we've been gaslit for so long, saying that we don't have a culture.
Yeah, and culture is evil in some way.
Yeah.
Except multiculture, which is wonderful, like the multiverse, where you can, if there are multiverses, you can be sinful in one multiverse, but not sinful in another.
Right.
So your conscience clear. Anyway, let's save the real whining for later, and keep it really upbeat at the beginning. Tory leadership. What did you make of it? I know we had dinner last night, and you were your usual hugely optimistic self about all of this stuff.
It's very positive, it really is. I mean, I saw this last two coming. I don't know which one it's going to be out of Robert Jenrick or Kemi Badenoch. I don't think it really matters that much. They're both very similar. The left hates them both. The Liberals hate them because they see them as the far right. We've seen Tories in the Times yesterday saying, oh, the Tories are going to go even further right-wing. They're going to lose the next election. It's like, what do you mean even further right-wing? They're as far left as they can possibly be whilst calling themselves conservative. They need to lurch to the right. Kemi and Robert both have some good attributes.
So it seems to me to be a blunt tool of immigration, which Jenrick has. He seems to have gone. It's quite interesting because he didn't really appear on my political radar because obviously I didn't care about politics, and I still don't to a degree. But he was. I think he was sent, as far as I gather, he was put into the Home Office to keep an eye on Suella Braverman to stop her being a crazy right-winger. Right. And then he's either been radicalised or it's, but he's basically transformed himself from David Cameron to Tommy Robinson.
Are you suggesting he's saying what he needs to say to get the membership to vote for him?
I'm suggesting it might be possible for a politician to do such an amazing thing. But I'm also saying that Kemi then has gone for a slightly different tactic, which is the cultural tactic.
Kemi's always been on culture.
Yeah, no, she has. But she also, at the same time, I do wonder, half my mind wonders whether she's going to get the same sympathetic treatment as that Labour woman who can't put her shoes on right. What's her name? Diane Abbott. Whether she'll be forgiven for, whether she'll have the same compassionate, oh, don't be racist and sexist to dear old Kemi. because apparently if you're a black conservative, it doesn't matter. You're fair game for the Andrews of this world.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's true. But Kemi's issue is that she's not conservative, not very conservative. Like she's very good on the cultural stuff. She's anti-woke, but being anti-woke is not the same as being conservative. She's not very good on life issues. She's not very good on maternity issues. She's not very good on the God stuff. And so that's her weakness. Robert Jenrick is a little bit more conservative, but he's not very strong in his rhetoric. Kemi is stronger in her rhetoric. He will talk around issues. I saw her on the BBC recently saying, no, some cultures are not, well, she said valid, but I would have said, not as equal or not as, we're talking about superiority of culture, and that's an important conversation to be had.
She was right. It's the first person I've heard be Islamophobic without being criticised for it. I mean, she did get criticised for it, but she was very clever in the way that she turned around and said, not all cultures are. We can't tolerate cultures which hate Jews.
Yeah.
So essentially she was, it's not Christian culture that hates Jews. It surprises me that, though. On the Calvin Robinson conservative scale, which Calvin Robinson is 10 and I'm soppy liberal 1, that you even acknowledging that they are conservative. So there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. What interests me is that whatever happens for the next 2 weeks, they're going to have, now that it's to the members and they're not trying to flirt with their own colleagues and, cleverly got lifted up and then chopped down, is that the only choice they have really is to go more right wing for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Which is great.
So they're going to try out, and then it enters into the equation, which we can discuss either now or separately. If they are, both of them have positioned themselves to the right of Nigel Farage.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Not difficult, really.
Yeah, but
Nigel Farage has moved into the centre ground since he got into Parliament in order to secure his position.
When you say secure his position, what do you mean?
All Nigel Farage has ever wanted has to be in that house. And now he's in that house, he wants to hold on to it for as long as possible. He doesn't care about the country, he doesn't care about the culture. He cares about immigration, but what he cares about most is Nigel Farage. And so he wants to stay in there, in the establishment. He wants to go to the gentlemen's clubs. He wants to have the nice dinners at Boysdale and wherever else, Carlton. That's what he cares about, which is fine for him.
Really? Do you think he wants to be an MP for another term after this one?
I don't know about the next term, but he wanted to get there, and now he's there. He wants to hold on to that the establishment of it all, the position, rather than the actual being an MP and doing the MP's work. I don't know if he's ever been to Clacton since he got it.
He has been to Clacton.
Okay,
I went to go and support him, even though he threw you, me, and everyone else under the bus with do not associate list. I'm interested on just sort of pragmatic level to go. How are they going? So, what is the point of reform?
There is no point in reform
if Jenrick is literally going to pay the French to take migrants back and is walking around saying Hamas are terrorists. Jenrick's to the right of to the right of Farage.
Yeah, when Farage says we can't do deportation, it's impossible, and then Jenrick says actually no, we need to deport people. If he goes that far, then great, the Conservatives will become conservative.
And Kemi's sort of, I think Kemi's made an interesting thing about not talking about policies. So she's talked about principles, which I've always thought politicians should do anyway. Yeah. And I don't. Part of me is like, yeah, sock puppet, Michael Gove, respected all that. I get that kind of. There's no hope. Well,
but actually, Michael Gove wins either way.
Yeah.
Robert Jenrick worked for the Policy Exchange for a long time, which is basically Lord Godson's outlet to promote Michael Gove. I know, I worked there myself. Kemi Badenoch has Michael Gove running her campaign. So Michael Gove is the puppeteer. It doesn't matter which one wins. Michael Gove wins either way.
What is Michael Gove going to make the Conservative Party?
I don't know.
Do you think he's right wing? I mean, not right wing, but do you think he's Conservative?
I don't think Gove is Conservative. I don't think he looks at the world in that way. I think it's all about power and influence. And
I hate that about these people.
Oh, yeah.
Power and sodding influence.
Sure.
They don't want your power and sodding influence. The whole idea of a Conservative is to remove your power and sodding influence and give it back to me.
Well, Gove and Dougie Smith essentially ousted Boris Johnson and then Liz Truss to get Rishi Sunak in. Rishi Sunak's had his day, so they want to make sure they get their next person in so they can continue in the positions that they are in, which is puppet masters, which is all they care about. So who knows where we'll be as a result of their little games.
Is it the right direction, though? Let's try and be a bit positive. It's the right
it doesn't matter.
Well,
It doesn't matter.
But I mean, could we foreseeably see someone say that we are going to stop the boats and this is how we're going to do it, not some stupid Rwanda plan where you fly from, I mean, just imagine the
Because
carbon created by...
none of them are going to do anything about it. Doesn't
This
matter.
is when I don't like the black pill Calvin.
What's going to happen? They'll lobby the membership and pretend to be right wing until one of them gets the vote, whether it's Kemi or Robert, doesn't really matter. And then they'll become the leader of the party. We'll have the same old rinse and repeat stuff that we've had for decades.
Two people stood up to each other at the dispatch box complaining about the other one. That's what I've always hated about the House of Commons. I mean, it was great when there were big issues of state that they would disagree on. Do you think the king should intervene at some point?
No, a lot of people keep tweeting me that where's the king on this? Where's the king? Like, the king's whole position is to not be political. If the king comes out political, then it destroys the whole system.
Yeah, but he got his name on your beret when you go out into battle.
Sure.
You know, you're fighting for king and country. You're not fighting for Kemi and country. It's... I don't know. I'm not as disheartened as you are, but I do think one has to have a set of... I mean, it's just appalling to... I do know what you mean by when you look at the country and you just go, my God, it happened so fast. But I do think that there is a... I've said this to you, I think I said this to you last night, and I think I'll say it again. I think if a political party stood up and said not a single boat will enter British waters and every single foreign criminal will be deported from England, including those who are here and staying here illegally, I think that party would win a landslide election. I think they'd take 4 million votes off Reform, and I think they'd take the 4 million Conservatives who did nothing, and they're then ahead of Labour.
But who's going to say that?
Me?
Okay.
But not me actually. I think it doesn't need to come from someone like my voice because I'm not credible as a politician because I hate them. So it doesn't really help. I'm much more of I care. I was thinking after, I'll tell you. Anyway, I was thinking after something happened last week. I was thinking, and I keep saying there's no political solution to a cultural problem.
Yeah.
There is no political solution to a cultural problem. You have to change the culture.
Yeah.
And I don't think politicians can do that. I think they can help legitimize people to say things certainly about Islam, which no political party has said. Kemi's the only one who said anything about Islam. So I find that encouraging, actually, rather than disappointing.
Neither Kemi nor Jenrick have said anything about Islam. They've both talked around it. I don't think they've actually called out the evil itself.
But how can you? And be a politician? That's what I'm trying to say.
This is what we need: politicians who will speak the truth without fear.
Yeah. Well, but then they're not politicians; they're radicals.
Well, we need radicals then, if that's what it takes.
Yeah, we do need radicals, but radicals in the British system are seen as Farage is proving, are seen as dangerous, and and they first of all they try and destroy your life, which they do to anyone who happens not to agree with their stupid globalist agenda. And then they destroy, they make your life so unlivable that you'd rather just stick your head in the sand and do nothing. And they rely on the sort of general apathy of people
which is the English way
to move. Yeah, but
we're reliant on sticking our heads in the sand.
Yeah, but that's not our culture. We've stood up before. We've stood up before. We've had revolutions and we've reversed them.
Not any generation that's still alive.
Yeah, that's very true. But I think the younger generation, so the Connor Tomlinsons of this world, people who've been told that Britain was wonderful, and then they've grown up in a world where they've gone to school and been told they're white and they're male and they're therefore shit. They're responding to it in a much more robust way, and we need that generation. But they're on the do not associate with list for Reform.
Yeah, of course.
Because Reform are trying to professionalise the party because some Muslim dude turned up, gave him some money and decided to be chairman. I don't get it. I'm confused. I'm confused as to where Neil Oliver is on GB News. Where is he?
I don't know. I haven't.
Where's Neil Oliver gone for the last 4 weeks?
Has it been 4 weeks?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Where is he gone?
What games are they playing? It's almost exactly a year since we were fired.
Is it? Oh, I miss it so much. I think about it every day. Oh God, it would be today. I'd be wandering into that miserable little
that horrible
hole of
bunker.
his place. To have to go and go, I quite want to talk about this. Can you let me get to talk about that? It's like, no, we're not allowed to touch that. No, we don't touch that. I'm like, why do you keep calling yourself the home of free speech? And why are you turning into like a budget Fox News? And why, I mean, I don't watch it, but I see clips online sometimes. It's like girls in red dresses on sofas and boys in suits with fake tan talking about immigration.
Oh, there's a lot of preening these days. Yeah.
There's a lot of preening.
Yeah.
When I was there, I used to say, "Give me a Mark Dolan. I want a full Mark Dolan," which is basically you look like you've walked across the Sahara with no SPF on at all. But it is that thing about this sort of, yeah, well, let's get back to the Neil Oliver thing. I'm sorry, Neil, if you don't want me to talk about it, but I want to talk about it. They talked to us about this, didn't they? Because we're the enfant terrible of their situation, and they were just looking for an opportunity to get rid of us. Neil's hung on.
Yeah.
Much
He's
longer.
managed to hang on for another year, which is, well, fair play to him.
But are they trying to? Are they? They said, right, we'll go online.
Right. So they wanted me, you, and Neil online so that they could control what we say. And they've done it to Neil. What did they do? Take a 2-hour show online, compress it and edit it down to 1 hour for the airwaves so they could take all the spicy stuff out.
But you know how incompetent GB News are? I'll tell you how incompetent they are. So he's in the main studio, that horrible dungeon in Paddington. And then obviously they rented out another one somewhere in, I think, in Richard Tice's building.
Right.
Wonder how that happened. Reform TV. And they are meant to broadcast Neil's, they're broadcasting live, I think it's Daub Neil or something like that. And Neil has got 2 hours to record his thing. And then because they're so incompetent, they still have to run the news bulletins and all of that stuff. So Neil's halfway through a conversation, they're like, shh, got to stop. So he'd have these international guests on and they just drop out. They'd just be like, what sort of shit show is this?
Yeah.
And then he's sort of quietly gone away. And I wonder whether, like we're in the boiling frog, thing, they do it so slowly you don't even notice. Whether he's in the opposite version, whether they're freezing him to death.
Perhaps.
Because they don't want to sack him because he's never done anything wrong and he's never off-commed anyone, same as you, never done anything wrong. But they're just waiting for him. Either they just starve him to death.
Yeah. But after they got rid of me, you, and Dan, they couldn't get rid of Neil as well because that would have ended the channel.
Yeah.
Because the viewers are already saying you're getting rid of the people that speak the truth, and you said you were here to speak the truth. You said you were about free speech, and you're sacking all these people. If they sack one more, especially Neil, who is the last one who's truly on a mission, the channel's dead. So they have to. It has to be an unfair dismissal. It has to be constructive dismissal to get rid of him,
or just slow strangulation to death.
Well, that's constructive dismissal. I remember sitting around in the studio in that basement, hearing his producers anytime he walked out. We can't let him say this. What's he trying to say this week? Oh, we can't. He's such an extremist. That's the environment.
It's so dull.
It's toxic.
So, as you know, I got fed up with this whole thing, and I'm deeply fed up and disappointed with reform. You know you're in trouble when you think Ticey's more edgy than Farage. Like, Ticey comes out with some pretty edgy stuff sometimes.
He's doing all right now.
Yeah, I
don't know
like
what changed, but he's doing all right.
I like Ticey. Also,
leadership just wasn't for him, maybe.
Well, I've always said that he's a nice guy.
Yeah, same.
And, he just struggles for whatever it is, in the same way as I struggle for moderation in my speech. He probably struggles for other things. It's not a judgment. But so what, I spoke to Ben Habib, and, he's obviously been getting really, really pissed off about the lack of democratization in the party, this whole sort of dictatorship. And I think that there is a way of making reform do what we want them to do.
Go on then.
I think we have to get them to talk about the big issue.
What's the big issue?
What do you think the big issue is?
Immigration. Deporting.
Islam.
Oh, okay.
It's got to be talked about. Someone's got to have a view on it.
Who's going to talk about that?
Well, I think you can make them talk about it.
Okay.
By doing the work on what has happened. So if you look at the crime rate in Bournemouth, it's gone up 300 and something percent.
Yeah.
And actually, so I think with the generic chemi thing, you're creating an environment where we can now talk about it without anyone taking any notice of Saeed Awazi going, oh, you're all Islamophobic. It's like, no, it's not Islamophobic. It's not irrational. We fear your religion for exactly the reasons that your religion states, which is a supremacist religion which seeks to dominate, take over our country.
Yeah.
And it inculcates values which none of us are on board with.
Right.
So if we can put together a good piece of work about the effects of Islam on Britain, we can then, I'm happy to just hand it to Reform and go, you can now talk about this stuff. Okay. Otherwise you don't exist anymore, or to Kemi, or to anybody.
I like it. I do like it. But The reports on the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs are out. And
It's a moral
still,
panic, according to Wikipedia.
indeed, but still, Reform haven't touched it. And so if Reform, the so-called far-right party, aren't going to touch the biggest issue of the moment, this Islamification of Britain and the rape of young British girls, if they're not going to touch it when the evidence is out, why is more evidence going to change their mind? Or I don't know. What's going to push people to have this conversation?
Well, if people are into power and control, which they are, anyone who wants to get into politics is into power and control. In fact, you say Farage is in, he wants to stay in, he wants to be part of the club, wants to be invited to the Carlton Club, won't wear denim and trainers, sorry for next time. But if that's what he wants, then he will do anything for that, will he not?
He wants to be liked by everybody, and you can't be liked by everybody, but he hates that people see him as far right, and he doesn't want to be seen as edgy or on the extremities. He wants to be in the centre ground. It's not a centre ground issue.
But but surely he must understand that that's an existential problem for him, because if Jenrick can come here more further to the right than he is, then why vote Reform?
Look,
Everyone will go. Not only will go back to the Conservatives, they will go back to the Conservatives in droves.
Maybe.
But they're talking about, Rubelo was saying, it's not long before we see a national opinion poll where Reform are leading. And I'm going, really?
Well, I mean, Dan thinks that Farage has a chance of becoming Prime Minister. I don't see that. I see the...
Farage is Dan. Oh, Dan Whittenlow.
I see Reformers gaining maybe a few more seats. I see the Tories gaining some of their voters.
They didn't do well in the council elections
back
last night.
But I don't see either of the parties particularly doing very well in the next election. Maybe the one after that, they'll have a chance of doing something. But I'm not optimistic about the right at the moment.
You're not?
Even though Labour are doing abysmal, people don't see an alternative. They don't see anyone else to vote for.
Should it be about voting? I mean, I was thinking about referenda this morning as well. It's like, why have we not had a referendum on net zero? Why have we not been asked whether we want to cover our beautiful countryside?
Why would they? They don't have to. They can let their rich friends do whatever they like.
Because there have been times in history where the people of nations have turned around on their rulers and built guillotines and start chopping their heads off.
We don't revolt.
We've done it before. You don't. I remember watching that Ben Shapiro video when he was his first ever mainstream interview with Piers Morgan, and he turned around to Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was trying to give him bullshit about the Second Amendment, and Ben Shapiro said, he said, Ben Shapiro, why do you want a gun? And Ben Shapiro said, because I fear government tyranny. And Piers Morgan kind of guffawed and laughed, and I was like, yeah, I'm with Piers Morgan. This is ridiculous, Ben Shapiro. That's like such a lame ass excuse. Cut to government tyranny. So we are experiencing that now. Nothing that our politicians do is popular with the public at large.
Yeah. You've
got a government that's sat in there that less than 1 in 5 people voted for. So it's not a stable ground. Surely it's a more fertile ground for a movement, a Tommy Robinson type movement. A real elevation of the working class, and I think maybe that's why they jumped on Southport so hard, because they thought this is this great mass of people, the 10 or 12 million people that feel so let down by the political class, and this is how we shut them up. We frighten them into submission.
Yeah, maybe. I think we're waiting for something. We're not quite there yet.
It's definitely timing. I wonder if 4 years, 9 months more of this hell
maybe
we'll do it. I'm so glad I've got some freshly seasoned English oak and ash to burn. And keep myself warm for the next 4 years. Let's talk about something more cheerful, shall we? Abortion.
What about it?
So,
did you mean euthanasia?
Oh, fuck. We should do euthanasia.
Did you watch the video of Dr. Weeb talking to, is it Liz Carter? What's her name?
Yeah. She was in Silent Witness with my cousin.
Oh, really?
When they're remaking Day of the Jackal. They've remade Day of the Jackal. Thanks for the call, chaps. Yes, I did watch that.
That was chilling, wasn't it? That was very chilling.
Someone who's overseen the murder of 400 adults.
Yeah. And says it's the best work she's ever done in her life.
Yeah.
She brought babies into the world, but she much prefers killing people.
No, but she actually likes killing babies too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was
abortion. What was the other one? Contraception and euthanasia, or assisted suicide, or assisted dying, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
That's what she loves to do. She loves the end of life. She loves death.
Yes, she does. Victor Davis, well, the left love death anyway. Victor Davis Hanson said this great thing. He said, why do they call it reproductive rights when it's deproductive rights?
Because they speak in euphemisms.
Yeah.
So that faux compassion. That's what this virtue signaling is all about.
But so we've had, by some extremely strange anomaly, Keir Starmer, the most unpopular Prime Minister after 100 days in history, decides he's going to introduce an assisted dying bill.
Why?
Because Esther Rantzen.
Yeah, he promised Esther Rantzen.
Promised Esther Rantzen.
Like, that's how policy works.
It's like, fuck off, you crony twat. I don't give a shit what Esther Rantzen thinks about assisted dying. So then, Lois McClatchy put out an interview with a disabled woman who had been sedated to the point of, she'd been through the kind of early stages of, she joined Dignitas essentially because she felt that she was going to do her family a favour by dying. Yeah. And I'd like to play the whole 4 minutes now because I think it will frame the conversation. So let's play that.
And the radio was on one day and there was this discussion about assisted dying. My dad's going, you can understand why people get there. And I burst out crying and my dad just looked at me and I was like, and he was like, what? And I said, see, when I was really bad, I was like, I joined Dignitas. And my dad burst out crying. And then when I saw the reaction, I thought, at that time, I genuinely thought everybody would think it was a great idea that I wanted to end. I genuinely thought people will be happy I want to end my life. And then when I saw the reaction from my dad, when I saw my husband was annoyed, and he's like, how can you do that to us? How can you? I was genuinely shocked. I thought you would all be happy. And it just shows in what headspace I was in at the time. To me, it just seemed like that's an easy solve all. That'll solve all my problems. And I was in so much pain emotionally and mentally. And I thought the only way to have the end to that was death. Every time I've heard people talking about it and they talk about dignity and dying, to so many people out there, they genuinely believe that it does give dignity. A lot of people genuinely think it's dignified, there's no pain, there's no suffering. Why are we being given this one narrative being pushed all the time? And it's not true. Why are we not hearing the other side of the story? It's very similar medications used that are often used in America with the death penalty. You're giving somebody antiemetics, they're not going to be sick. That lets them hold down this ridiculous volume of barbiturates, and then giving somebody a paralytic, you're neuromuscular blocked, you cannot move. I was listening to an anaesthetist talking who said that yes, he witnessed somebody dying in one of these prisons, and this might seem like a random situation, but he said it looked peaceful. When you're actually paralysed, you're not going to move, you're not going to budge. It's going to look very peaceful from the outside. I've been in that situation because I've other health condition. I have asthma, I've been in intensive care and been intubated and on life support on a ventilator. And I have been blocked, and at one point I woke up during anaesthetic, I couldn't move at all. I could feel 100% of anybody touching me and moving me, and I remember being in pain, but I could not move. And somebody put a pillow under my head and I was like, and I remember thinking, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. That would look totally peaceful. And then the autopsy report confirmed that the way all these different people, all these autopsy reports, when they had been done, people were dying with pulmonary edema. Anybody I've ever looked after that's had pulmonary edema, they are drowning in their own body effectively. It might look dignified to the person observing from the outside, but feeling like you're drowning in your own body, where's the dignity in that death? When I've been with my kids, jumped in a swimming pool, water goes up your nose, goes down the wrong way, you cough. How uncomfortable is that? Imagine that going on for a long period, or a prolonged period of time till you're not here anymore. That's not peaceful. It's not peaceful. I think you need to have an understanding of the actual mechanism that people's bodies are going through when they're dying, and really question, is it pain-free? Is it all it's being made out to be? I think it's very much a contradiction to say that assisted suicide gives any form of dignity.
So that's what these fuckers want to do. After 100 days of pissing on his own people, he wants to do this. Sorry, I'm doing my bad thing again where I get sweary and angry.
They're a party of death in a culture of death, and this is what they celebrate. I don't know how we open their eyes to the fact that the value of human life isn't determined on how many days you're going to live, or how healthy you are, or how well you can walk, or how a doctor or a judge determines you to be valuable. Our value comes from the sanctity of life and the fact that God loves us. He loved us before he knew the number of hairs on our head before we were even conceived, and he designed us however we are. He designed us that way for a purpose.
Before a word is on your lips, I know it completely. Where can I flee from your spirit? My favourite psalm in the whole world.
Yeah, 139.
Yeah.
But this is God's love is why we are here. That's our purpose. It's not to be utilitarian and to work or to anything that we make up. It's just God's love. It's as simple as that. But they don't recognize God's love because they don't recognize God, and so they worship death.
So how can one reconcile oneself with someone who worships death?
I don't know.
Because I look at Keir Starmer and think, I promised. Well, he's a pathological liar, like all people on the left. It's like, well, I promised Esther Ranson. At what point do people just go, I don't care if you promised Esther Ranson, Keir? And also, dignity in dying is the same as reproductive health care rights.
Yeah.
You're using
Another euphemism.
Is it euphemism? We need to think of a new word for it, because it's euphemism implies that there is some truth in it. In my understanding of the word euphemism. So it's very euphemistic. It's like, okay, there's some truth in it, but it's 95% lie, but 5% truth. I don't think there's any truth in that. So I don't think it's a euphemism.
No.
I think it's. Why are they saying? Why would a Labour government who are trying? Why would a Labour government who want to kill off Granny try and give you a way of
Killing off
Granny? What point does one draw the dots together?
But the language they use is like the screw tape letters, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like pretend it's good, pretend it's compassionate, and then people buy into it. That's all they do, twisting it all the time.
But then it makes their rule intolerable. I find it intolerable. So maybe they rely on our apathy for us to walk away from it, to go, you know what, I can't cope with you evil people, so I just have to walk away from it. But one's instinct is to fight for the truth. But perhaps that's not the right thing to do. A guy stopped me on the train the other day. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you, but I was going up the escalator at Liverpool Street, and this guy tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and he just went like that, and I was like, okay. And I went around the corner, and he said, your instincts are right, but you need to make it about God. And if I hadn't been in a rush, I would have stopped and said, what do you mean? What would he have meant? What would he have said to me, do you think?
I don't know. Can't imagine the context, but he's right. Everything needs to be about God. And sometimes, we all get distracted and think we're fighting for a good reason, but we forget we're fighting for God or for his truth. We don't need to fight for God. He doesn't need us to fight for him, but we're supposed to fight for his truth. And because our whole purpose is to love him and to love our neighbour. So just put that at the centre of everything that we do, and we're on the right track. And then when they come with some new form of compassion that, people are suffering, they need to die, we remind them that actually, no, God is the one who decides when we live and when we die, and actually suffering is part of the human story, and we can't avoid it.
Is that a Rubicon majorly crossed? It is, isn't it? For human beings. I mean, I've always been sceptical of assisted dying, whilst at the same time acknowledging the fact that my mum was a nurse, as you know, and she euthanized, not personally, but she witnessed the euthanasia of quite a lot of people. But she said it wasn't done in a formal way. These are people at the very end of their life, riddled with cancer, in their last hours. And, maybe the doctor just pushed the plunger a bit harder to help them on their way. And I'm sure that happens across the world in any society, but to formalise it, I find it sort of demonic, because if man chooses to take control over another person's life, that's why I'm so against death penalty, in a formal, peaceful setting, that's a sign of a degeneracy I can't get my head around.
I think it's very different to the death penalty, but this is us playing God. This is us deciding when life should begin or when life should end. It's the same at the start of life with abortion, killing the baby before it's born, and it's the same at the end of life with assisted dying, killing a person before they die, before they are naturally supposed to die. And there's a massive, massive chasm between saying, look, I want a DNR. I don't want any extra circumstances to enable me to live longer. When it's my time, it's my time. Massive difference between saying that and saying, I want to end my life now. I want to be in control. And the doctor saying, yes, I will play God and I will end your life. That's very different.
Do you think a fully sentient person should be able to make that choice?
No, nobody should be able to make that choice. It's not our choice to make.
Okay, so if someone is fully conscious,
Yeah.
so suicide therefore is the sin, yeah? Can you go to heaven if you commit suicide?
That's a longer conversation.
Well, no, but it's a yes or no.
It's not a yes or no.
Well, can you or can't you? Bible's pretty binary about this stuff.
No, the Bible, the Christian message is that you should avoid sin and you should try to receive the sacraments before you die. You should try to receive last unction. You should try to receive go to confession. You should try to receive the blessed sacrament of the Eucharist. But we don't know how God works in between those lines. So we have to have hope that if we die when we're not in a state of grace, that he finds a way. But we don't know that he does.
No.
We just have to have hope that he
So I
does.
suppose the left just want to get rid of that altogether and say, well, who needs God when you've got your own free will?
Well, the enemy doesn't want us to get to heaven. And so he's removing all these options to be in a state of grace. And this is why we live in a world where sin is no longer just tolerated, but approved of, because the enemy wants everyone to live in a state of sin. Because if you're in a state of sin, you're heading towards damnation and not eternal salvation. But the message of the church is to sin no more. This is what Christ said to everyone, sin no more. And so we're supposed to go to church, we're supposed to confess of our sins, we're supposed to be cleansed of that and seek faith in him. And then we go to heaven. We're baptized in water and the Holy Spirit, and we have faith in Christ and we go to heaven. And we sin and we go to hell. That part
sin
is
and do not repent. So Christian Concern shared with me, you shared it as well. They're very nice. They're very good to share it with me. They shared this thing about the fact that it could be illegal to pray in your own home because if your own home falls within the abortion buffer zone, where you're not allowed to pray.
This is insane.
I mean, yeah.
Firstly, I just came from Christian Concern. I love those guys. They are warriors for Christ.
Christian Concern.
Yeah, absolutely. There are very few people in this country fighting, and they are at the forefront of it. These buffer zones they should be illegal anyway. So they've outlawed harassment, intimidation, things that are already outlawed. They've outlawed handing out literature to women outside abortion centres, letting them know they have other options. They've outlawed conversations with women. Whether that's a conversation of you don't have to kill your baby, or we'll adopt your baby, or we'll give you money, we'll be here for you, we'll help you, support you, whatever you need. And they've outlawed prayer. And this is explicit in the law that you cannot be praying, even silently in your own head, in these PSPOs. And what we're seeing from this letter in Scotland is that what's been sent to a resident saying, you live within one of these buffer zones. If someone can see or hear you praying in your own home and takes offence, you could be charged. It's like, first of all, what, should I have to close my blinds when I'm praying now?
Yeah, that's what they want you to do. They want to extend that across the country.
It's tyranny. There's no other way around it.
It's religious persecution.
Yes, but it will only be one religion that's persecuted. If someone sees you with your bum in the air on a rug, they're not going to come for you. They see you holding your hands around a table saying they are Father, you can guarantee they're going to come for you.
I'm so fucking angry about this. I can't tell you. I'm so... You actually have been tweeting, and others have been tweeting about the American election when it comes to Christians, because Christians are like, well, if Trump's going to take this position on abortion, which... Let's face it, no world is perfect, and the world beyond is perfect, I get it. And I happen to, whilst I don't agree with it, I am sympathetic to the argument of incest and rape. I'm sympathetic to that argument. I think it's.
You're not really. I don't think you are. If you think it's
no. When I say sympathetic, I understand it.
Okay.
I don't agree with it.
Okay.
But I understand it.
Sure.
And and it's what I mean about something being binary. It's either live or it's dead.
It is. It's true. But with politics, there is nuance there, and where Christians are getting complacent is they're thinking, okay, none of these candidates are perfect. I'm not going to vote for any of them. Like, that's a mistake, because if you don't vote for Trump, Kamala does get in. If Kamala does get in, she is pro-death. She's pro-abortion up to birth, probably even afterwards. Like, it's evil.
They are pro-after.
And anti-free speech. Whereas Trump has at least put abortion down to the state level, where in American politics it probably should be. So each state can decide for themselves where they. I mean, I'd be in favour of a federal ban on abortion, of course I would. But to most Americans, a state level decision is what's right for them. And so Trump is the guy that did that. He would not force abortion on anybody, and whereas Kamala would. And so it's quite simple. If you want to prevent death, you vote against Kamala for Trump. I would vote for Trump if I could, but people who don't want to vote for him should at least vote against Kamala.
What is the difference between these sorts of edicts and mansions in the middle of the woods with people dressed up in goat heads and summoning Satan? I mean, what's the difference?
Some of them do both.
It's like, and also, I've got this thing about judges now as well, because obviously I've been through the judicial system on a few different levels, and I've experienced this stuff, and I've said to myself, and I go, okay, so you're releasing paedophiles from prison early to lock up people who...
To lock up Bernie, for goodness sake.
Challenge you to lock up Bernie Spoffle, to challenge your authority. But
it's darker than that. It's not just about locking people up or challenging people. The courts have sanctioned people to death for going against them. You know, I talk all the time about the situations of baby Indy, of Sudiksha, Thormalesh, of these people that wanted to live or to fight to live, and the courts said, no, you will die, and or even you will not be allowed to talk about it, and you won't be able to travel anywhere else to another country where they have experimental treatments. We'll take your passports. The judges have said, you will die. It's death.
They have to. We have to. People have to be. And it actually is. I don't want to be what I'm becoming, but if you see what the alternative is, which is essentially that I understand that humanity is fallible and that we can receive no true justice in this planet.
Right.
On this planet. I understand.
Absolutely,
it. Because people kind of like killing each other when they're bored, or I want your bit of land. I get that it's human. And I get that, therefore, all of those weaknesses transfer themselves into things like the judiciary and stuff like that. But when you celebrate it, when you do it in a way which is to celebrate murder, to celebrate death, to glorify death, not only to excuse it but celebrate it, you've gone so far over the edge of my consciousness and understanding that I don't know what one does in that situation. I find it, you know, I get into your place, which is a place of real, you know, despair about it. But yours is quieter despair than mine.
I don't think I'm in despair. I've just acknowledged this is where we are. You know, I think this evil is going to continue, but we have to continue to expose it. Yeah. When I see that Dr. Weber, I am not an exorcist. I'm not professionally qualified to identify demonic activity. But when I see her, I see demons. I see evil, not even pure evil, sheer evil.
What was Gretchen Whitmer doing with Dorito?
Again, mocking the Eucharist. It's satanic activity, and we see it all over now. And
what would they do? Well, I mean, I do it. I burn their trans flag. I don't care.
Right, but I just think we can't stop it happening. But what we can do is expose it and highlight it and let people see all this evil. Because the more evil people see, the more they realize that the world is dark, and there must also be a light. And so people want to find Him.
And you can't opt out. Weirdly, I've worked out. Atheism is not an opt-out.
No.
Wokeism is just another religion. Islam is an ideology similar to wokeism.
We're pre-programmed to believe in something. We will always believe in something.
Yeah.
It's because God's knowledge of God is imprinted on our hearts and our souls. We know that there is a God. And so some of us find Him in the true sense, but other people find Him in other things, whether that's drugs, women, power, money. People find gods.
Well,
or death.
I think the worship. I do think ultimately it becomes about the worship of death, because people go. I try and put myself in their heads all the time. I go, okay, so why would someone behave so abominably to another human being? And I go, well, because they don't think life means anything. So sticking two fingers up at those that think life does mean something is in its own way a victory over life. You know, whereas Christ offers a victory over death. Okay, let's make it cheerful. Elon.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's busy.
He's very busy.
He's jumping up and down at Trump rallies. Not sure where I stand.
I thought that was great. I liked his little autistic jumping around. He was very excited, excitable. It was nice to see.
It is nice to see. It's a pretty dangerous game to play. I mean,
Elon sees it the way that we do. If Trump wins, the West has a chance. If Trump loses, it's all gone. It's all to play for right now. Yeah.
Forever.
Well, possibly. People can't conceive that.
I think he's amazing.
However,
Okay.
He is not a savior. And I've been saying this from the beginning.
No, he isn't a savior.
I've been saying this from the beginning, that people on our side look to him as a hero. He is not a hero. He's not a savior.
He is a hero.
No, he's aligned with us on some things. He's not conservative. He is a liberal, old-fashioned liberal, granted. But he always shows the same thing. He always shows the graph of how the left have moved, and he stayed the same. What he's trying to bring about could be the end of humankind. His latest announcement of all these robots. And of course, he wants to go to Mars as well. Great for him. Exploration's great. But these robots, I've seen all of these sci-fi movies. Not one of them is good for us.
It doesn't, does it?
No. And AI as well. AI at the same time.
But he's the one that's he's doing his best to put some ethics into AI rather than...
He is.
Show me the founding fathers.
But the best laid plans of mice and men.
Colour in 18th century wigs.
And hell is paved with the road of good intentions, as they say.
The road to hell is paved with
paved with good intentions.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But what's okay? So if you could have a robot,
right,
that literally just did what you asked it to do.
So my life is not that difficult that I need a robot. It's convenience, and I talk about convenience all the time as the gravest sin of the modern West, because we give up so much for convenience.
Yeah, no, I mean...
We just want more convenient lives. We want to avoid suffering, so we have no resilience, we have no stoicism left. We have a whole generation that cries when they have to work a 5-hour shift.
Oh, if I was sat in my house and I've just had to clear out a room, and now my wood pile is behind a giant pile of other crap, and I have to clamber over it to go and get the wood. If I was sat in the house and there was a robot charging in the other room, and I went, "Can you go and get me go and fill out the wood basket, please?"
So what's that? Is it WALL-E? What's that film where everyone's just great big fat Americans on those hover vehicles, because no one needs to get up to do anything, just watch their screen constantly.
But if you were to maintain a healthy lifestyle, run around, go for long walks, walk your dogs and all that, are you saying that the problem is it's the sort of thin end of the wedge? After a while, you'd be like, you know what, C-3PO, can you take the dog for a walk?
Like, how many things do you do that you don't need to do?
Less and less.
The more technology we get, the less we do. Like, we literally have to go to a gym to work out because we have no reason to exercise in our modern day.
I don't go to the gym.
Because you've got 25 dogs.
I also build things.
Sure.
I beat out the ground a thing. You've got land in where you are. People can do it.
But generally speaking, they don't need to anymore. You don't need to anymore, so you outsource everything.
Yeah, but it depends on what your idea of need is. If you need to not feel anxious and depressed, setting yourself a physical task will take away your anxiety and depression.
I agree, but people don't realize it, and they don't do it. Generally speaking, people are getting fatter in the West. This is a statistical fact, because we have convenience everywhere. So we don't need more convenience, but also, what do we need these aliens? What do we need these robots for? Terminator, The Matrix, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. Wherever there are robots, it's replacement of people.
Yeah,
we want them to replace us. Why?
Because I think that's what's going to happen. That's what will happen.
I think it's something godless about it.
Well, when someone's diagnosed with a terminal lung disease, lung cancer, whatever, and you can you can cut your head off and
download yourself.
Well, you don't even need to download yourself. You can cut your head off, and they can put all your neural pathways into a very healthy, strong physical body.
Yeah.
Does the brain die? Yes, it does. But then they invent things to stop your brain dying, or regenerative things, Neuralinks, all this stuff. We are, whether we like it or not, that's where it's going. Right. And Elon is basically just going, here's some got robots to start with. But he's just, does that make him evil? I don't know. I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't think it makes him evil, but I just don't think these robots are a good thing.
I don't think they're a good thing, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm glad we don't live forever. I don't want to see that world.
You don't know whether you're going to live forever. I think that my kids' generation will be the first generation that get to choose whether they want to or not.
That's quite sad.
Well, in America, they're very close. A lot of cancer patients. Even Louis Theroux's documentary was, people were having to choose to die because medical treatment is so good. You have to go, we can do it again, and I'll give you another 6 months. But you're at some point you're saying my quality of life, which takes us right back to the dignity and dying thing. Perhaps there is something in
this.
the dignity in dying thing.
Well, there's something beautiful about life being finite, because we have the promise of everlasting life, which is glorious and far better than this life. But this is for a time and a season. Who would want to live forever?
I don't know. You'd have to ask me if I was diagnosed with something tomorrow and, I wanted...
Well, wanting to live for another 40 years is different to wanting to live forever, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I just wonder whether there will be I think there will be a time when you will get that option. Cheerful.
And then you have to consider what does it mean to have a soul? What does that mean about us? We already have...
Good.
We're already thinking about with IVF, right? So we create dozens of babies. They are conceived. One of them is put, or two is put into the mother, and then the rest are put on ice. So those babies are in limbo. They're frozen in stasis. Like, they're not allowed to live, but they're also not allowed to die. What does that mean for their soul?
What I like about our conversations is they're all really like fluffy and light. Really appreciate that. But, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think it's good, though.
I can't make a value judgment on stuff. I have a feeling that God saw all this stuff coming, and therefore endowed us with an understanding of just enough to know what the right path and the wrong path were to take.
Well, who was it who said just because you can do something doesn't mean you should?
I think it was possibly someone like Einstein.
Okay. I think that's the question we need to say more. With robots, with AI, with all this new tech, it's like, yes, you can do it.
What about genetically modified food?
Yeah, that too.
But then, it doesn't help with the idea of corruption and stuff like that. I know that Africa has made its own problems and its leaders have made its own problems, but the African continent has been sort of steadily raped by more advanced civilizations than it has, and I do feel like it would be nice for the African continent to succeed a bit more.
I mean, it's had plenty of time, Lawrence.
Well, yeah, but some people got
What?
The Native American people didn't even invent the wheel, did they? And that was the conservative argument. It's like, geez, guys, we're going to beat you in a battle if you haven't invented the wheel.
Right.
So you're a bit of a eugenicist.
No, I'm not a eugenicist.
No, what's a eugenicist? That's someone who thinks that certain people are cleverer than others.
Well, I think eugenics is more of seeing the utility of the person, right? I don't think of in that way, because I think all human life is sacred. And the fact that there are no people in Iceland with Down syndrome, I find that terrifying. I think Down's people are beautiful, just as everyone else is, and we're all made different, and that's a wonderful, special thing.
I don't know how a normal soul would recover killing a baby just because it was Down.
Yeah.
I don't think I could cope. Going back to the abortion thing, my argument would be that you must weigh up as much the damage to the murder that you're committing as to what you're doing to your own soul. And I would say to any young man, and I'll say it to both of my kids when the time comes, I will say, if they're really serious about a girl, I'll say, ask her if she's had an abortion. And if she says yes, ask her how she feels about it.
Yeah.
And if she feels fine about it, steer well clear.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere near a woman who's okay with having an abortion. She will ruin your life.
Unrepentant sinner, absolutely.
Yeah, unrepentant sinner. Of any sin, actually. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Wow, that was quite, I almost prefer you down the screen. Having this so intensely in my head at this distance is like,
I think our whiskey conversation last night was more entertaining.
yeah. Well, that was bound to happen, but who cares? But also half of our whiskey conversation we couldn't talk about.
Definitely could not put it out
because we both
the world's not ready for that.
We've been in catastrophic trouble. But okay, so. I'm heading over to States next week. Yep. You are heading back next week.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to Britain before you leave?
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'm loving America. America's fantastic, and more Brits should come on over if they want some freedom and a bit of fresh air, metaphorically speaking.
After this conversation, I'm worried that I'll be being carried by a robot to the airport, you know, I'll be banned.
Yep. We're not quite there yet. But England feels heavy and dark, and it doesn't feel good. It's not nice. It's good to get away.
I will be in America next week. You'll be coming back to America next week.
Yep.
We will have to...
But you're not coming to see me.
I'll try.
Try means no.
No, it doesn't actually mean no. It depends on...
It's like when your mum says maybe.
No, as you well know, I'm an extremely complicated situation.
Yeah.
So I have spoken to the idea of extending it for a little bit.
Cool.
And we'll find out. But anyway...
well, it'll be nice to see you.
It would be nice to see you. I mean, hopefully we
In
could...
the land of the free.
We could talk about the robots not taking over and it all being okay.
Okay.
It's got to be okay.
It will all be okay in the end.
I know, because we'll all be dead.
Oh, well.
Anyway, on that bombshell, back to the studio. No, it's so lovely to have you back, and I can't wait to see you, hopefully in the States, and we'll do a Fox and Father in the States in the church, and I want them to be given some hope and positivity by our brothers and sisters overseas.
They're full of it. They've got all the hope and all the positivity.
Yeah, and all the robots.
They're not there yet. It's a concept.
Walking around last night, mate, pouring pints and everything.
I know. But they're on two legs. They're still bipedal. So just trip them up, run away.
Trip them up and run away.
And have a shotgun ready.
Yeah, trip them up, run away, have a shotgun ready. And don't think about AI and don't think about the future. Just live in hope and everything's going to be fine. And I want my mom.
This is a weird timeline, though, isn't it? It really is.
It's crazy.
It's like, what are we living through? Weird age.
Exponential development of crazy shit that no one understands.
Yes.
But as you said, just because you can, should you? Anyway, I love you, man.
Love you too, brother, with your Ace Ventura here.
Is it Ace Ventura?
It's cool.
God, it's amazing. Suspiciously blonde, as it gets called by journalists who have nothing else to criticise.
I've always thought it was strawberry blonde.
Yeah, well, the journalists just call it suspiciously blonde. It's like, you think I would be fucked to dye my own hair? Really? Genuinely?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't be fucked.
Yeah, you would. When you go grey, you're gonna dye your hair.
Absolutely, I'm not.
Are you not?
No.
Good. I like that.
I'm looking forward to going grey. I hope
Old
it
gracefully.
turns me into an adult.
Will that ever happen?
No.
No.
Not at the current rate. Seeing as all the adults are fucking evil. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the adults were, if I aspired to be like them, I'd be like, oh, so you're Machiavellian evil bastards. No, I'd rather
need some good adults.
I'd rather remain childlike in my thinking, which is biblical, isn't it?
Yeah. Be like innocent children.
Yeah, they're like innocent children. I'm gonna hang on to that one. Okay. I love you.
Love you too, brother. Thanks for watching.